AI, who doesn't talk about AI? And the whole thing about gloom and doom, all of our jobs are going to be taken away and whatever else we hear, or, how evil AI can be. And so we have a speaker here who will put all of our fears to rest, hopefully, and would give us some great insights of what we can look forward to with AI. So Chhavi Chauhan is, oh my gosh, the list of accomplishments and the pedigree that this woman has is really, really impressive. I don't know, many of you know I am a woman in IT fan, and it's like she's really doing some great things in the field of technology and in AI. So she's currently the director of scientific outreach at the American Society for Investigative Pathology. That's a mouthful, right? She was named in the AI Makers 150 AI and analytics leaders and influencers in 2021, the 100 brilliant women in AI ethics in 2022, and the top 100 women of the future 2023 list. My goodness. And listed as a finalist for the AI in Researcher Award 2023 from Women in AI. So she does do some things on the side. So she's a yoga teacher, which probably keeps her pretty centered. And she's offered a couple of conferences. But so what she's going to really focus on is the future of AI from a human perspective. So Chhavi, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Christy and Tina. I want to thank you all for this opportunity of letting me in your community. I reflected back on some of the presentations from before, and I must say that I found them to be very thought-provoking as well as actionable. So my goal today would be to share some insights and keep this presentation to be actionable for you to take back and act upon. I hate to make assumptions. My understanding here is that most of the folks here are from Orange County or somewhere in California, from the tech world, perhaps in transition. But if you don't mind sharing with me where you're located, what is your domain of focus, and where you are in your professional life in the chat, I would really appreciate that, because that will help me adapt this talk to your needs. And I can go first. I am talking from Cary, North Carolina, from my home office. I'm currently fully employed, but also embracing transition, which is upcoming, I know, due to the integration of AI in our workflows. So let's see where each one of you are from. Are people able to? Yeah, they're able to share in the chat. We'll keep this real quick. All right. Somebody in transition, management, Phoenix, Arizona, New Jersey, Southern California. Okay. Tech curriculum team, Orange County. All right, so we have an array of people coming from all over the US and in different domains, and that makes it really, really fascinating for me to make my talk a little broad, which is what I was hoping for. So before we begin, I have one more question for you to type in the chat real quick. When you think about the future of AI, future of work in the age of AI, what are the words that come to your mind? What do you immediately think about? And Christy and Tina, if you don't mind, can I get a transcript of the chat later to answer to some of the people? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. You're on top of it. Cyborgs, excitement, progress, efficiency, making our lives easier, doing more complex things, learning to adapt and use technology, personal assistance, required upskilling, anxiety, creativity, questionable quality. So far from real AI, elimination of manual tasks, This is wonderful. So I see a whole array of things, and that's what I was really, really hoping for, because in the headlines, we see all this doom and gloom. So I wanted to make this talk thought-provoking, but not provocative. A tool, no, not substitute for thought. Wonderful. Keep those thoughts coming because we will get back to it and discuss some of it later again. But I want to just kickstart our discussion today. Um, this could be a very provocative talk. And as I mentioned, that's not my intent today, right? I could present a bunch of different headlines saying how many jobs are being lost by the advent of AI. But I thought of instead putting a simple query in Google to ask projected job losses due to AI. And what Google predicts based on, the analysis it did, there could potentially be a replacement of 800 million jobs worldwide in the next 5 to 6 years. And that gives us all pause, especially when we see it splashed all around the news, around us. I could also show some provocative images which relate the message on its own of the doom and gloom that's upcoming. But again, that's not my intention today. We know for a fact that AI is here to stay. And as we embrace it, as many of you, listed in the thoughts that come to your mind about improving efficiency, harmonizing, it's likely that as we start improving the workflows, there will be some job displacements. But with job displacements, the integration of AI is going to bring in new opportunities. And that's something that we all should focus on. So I'm also a yoga instructor, and I thought of taking a yogic approach to this journey of the future of AI, of work in the age of AI. So, and by that, I'll tell you what I mean. I broke it down into my talk into 4 different concepts, which mirror a yoga class. So what do we think about when we think about dealing with the future of work? First and foremost, for all professionals, for leaders like yourself who are here today, either they're domain experts or looking for transitioning into new domains, what's most important is to be present. And in the context of this discussion today, what that means is to be familiar and aware of the shifted career landscape that lies in front of each one of us. And I'll dive a little bit deeper into it in the next in the next few slides. But let's just explore this concept a little bit more. The second stage in the class, or in this discussion here, is to focus on your breathing, right? But what do I mean by that in the context of working in your professional lives? It means to stay relevant, and going beyond that, to stay visible. And in the shifting career landscapes, staying resilient, all this while being human. The next step is to explore your edge, not just get complacent at being relevant, staying visible, and of course, staying resilient, but also while you're enduring the mundane, the increasing work pressures, I highly encourage you to explore what other opportunities lie ahead. And the last concept that I'm going to talk about is grounding. And this is bonus material for everyone, and it'll become a little bit more clearer as I talk. Really thinking and reflecting back upon what matters to you. So let's get started with the concept, exploring the concept of being present. How do we understand the shifting career landscapes? I don't have a crystal ball to predict the future, but what we all can do together is to revisit the past and learn from past experiences. I saw a bunch of different domains that folks are coming from. For the sake of today's discussion, I deliberately chose a domain that I thought not many people may be coming from. And as a use case, I just picked movies and cinemas. So if we reflect back, going back to history of cinema, we know we started with motion pictures, and that evolved into big theaters where people would get together, be excited about seeing what's happening on the screen. With the advent of DVDs, that changed, right? And then there was the advent of Redbox or Netflix, the ability to get those DVDs on demand at home to watch the movies of your choice. And you can even go up to 3 or 5 movies at a time. There was no need for you to go back to theaters. There came the multiplexes to meet the needs of the industry to show multiple movies at the same time. And now we're in the world of on-demand live streaming. So the movie industry and cinema has seen so many changes come about through technology, each one of them rattling the industry and the workers in various different ways. Throw in the pandemic, when the theaters, much like many other domains that got upended, turn into other utility places, right? So the idea here is each domain, like the cinema industry, embraces new technology to improve the user experience, to cater to the needs of the users. Our products, our organizations are serving the needs of our clients, but we have to adapt to shifting times. So is there, the advent of AI, is that gonna upend cinema? I would say no. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar or aware with Sora AI. It's essentially a neural network-based AI tool which OpenAI has built, and it's capable, just like how you would use ChatGPT, give a prompt, get a whole bunch of results, synthesize stories, even poems, write essays. You could provide a language prompt, written prompt, which will generate up to 60 seconds of high definition, very impressive videos. I have seen some of these, and I kid you not, they're impressive. OpenAI is going to open up this platform to users in a couple of weeks. And what that's going to do is, in ways a lot of critics are forecasting, that it'll upend the cinema industry. So I'm not sure if that's going to happen. And I know there are leaders here and everyone believes in seeing data and trends. So here is a piece of data for you. Tyler Perry, who recently directed Mea Culpa, he was about to carry on an $800 million expansion of his studio. And when he saw the demo for Sora AI, he paused that expansion. But does that mean it's going to upend the cinema, the Hollywood industry, as we see it? I would say no. Maybe it'll lead to displacements of jobs in the CGI sector, per se, specifically. Maybe it'll give rise to a lot of amateur directors, who will start directing their own movies or short stories. Maybe there'll be a new genre of movies that didn't exist. But will it upend the industry? I'm not so sure. And hopefully we will all see how this trends in the next coming weeks or so. I read a lot, and I'm sure each one of you, especially those of you who are on the East and West Coast, are very familiar with the latest lawsuit that was filed against the National Association of Realtors and the 6% fee, the broker fee is going away. Now, folks are forecasting that's going to upend the real estate industry. In ways, yes, it is. But for those of you who are working in real estate or adjacent companies, I would highly recommend to start exploring and bringing in your domain expertise to explore some models into this industry, which was married to one concept for the last 100 years, right? And they're completely oblivious of, the experts in the domain are completely oblivious of what to do next. So I would challenge you to start thinking critically, be aware of the shifting career landscapes, not just in your domain, but other domains to start thinking about how could you leverage opportunities in those domains to extend your expertise. I ask you this question: why would you want to be a BlackBerry when you can be the iPhone? On one of my flights to a conference, a long flight, I got an opportunity to watch this movie on BlackBerry, Mike Lazaridis. And it was outstanding to see how the introduction of this one concept, one product, changed the telecom industry. You know, it was so revolutionary in so many ways. And it was really disappointing to see how the short-sightedness, you know, inability to be agile, to pivot, just the concept of feeling the power and refusing to move with the trends, the needs of the users, the clients, the people who were using BlackBerry, it led to its demise. It's very interesting to see how somebody like Steve Jobs challenged the concept of existing phone, which was a huge deal. It had swept over the market, to imagine something very unique, to think creatively and provide this tool in the hands of folks, which is still date most of us are using. So, oh, sorry, I pushed it. Can you see me? My screen froze. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Thanks
we
for the
can see you
nods.
and hear you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I think in today's world, looking back at these examples from our past on BlackBerry and iPhone, what are some of the strengths that we need to be working on? First of all, we have to focus on being present, looking at the shifting landscapes. I would highly encourage each one of you at an individual level and also at the level of your organization, your enterprise, to continue to perform routine SWOT analysis, which is the analysis of your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So you can maximize on your opportunities to explore what lies beyond what you're serving and to look at the threats to try and mitigate them ahead of time. It's essential in today's world more than ever to pivot, to be agile. If you're married to one concept, one idea, one product, the competition is going to kill you. That's not the way to survive now. We have the unique ability to analyze, to correlate. I gave you the example of the real estate scenario, right? Real estate market. That's going to shift, and it's going to shift significantly. From your vantage point in the domain that you sit, how do you see yourself leveraging that as an opportunity to maybe create a new client base, to maybe create a new service base, perhaps to take your skill set from your domain to provide new models there? Most importantly, you have to understand your user and client needs, and they're changing. Earlier, it used to be a longer course of action of change. But with the advent of technology, tools that we have already seen, like ChatGPT, which most of us are using, Sora, which is upcoming, you know the needs of your users, your clients are going to change. And how are you poised to embrace that change, to make it favorable for your enterprise, for yourself? I would highly encourage, and I think we are all seeing this a lot, that people are reacting when they're seeing the, the integration of AI into our workflows. I would really encourage you to respond, not react. Take an intentional approach and bring back that human element that has worked for us since centuries, and that's something which will continue to work for us. So continue to build trust into your enterprises, into your products, so the clients and users want those products. And I would highly encourage each one of you to re-engage in any lapsing partnerships, because there's historical knowledge there, there's an understanding of businesses there, there's domain expertise. but at the same time, be very open to new opportunities because the world is changing quickly. The landscape, career landscapes are changing quickly. And the sooner you pivot to embrace these opportunities, the higher the reward and the higher the growth you have in front of you. I do want you to think about the human element as you start embracing these AI tools in your own lives and at an enterprise levels, because know that you and your teams are very unique in being creative thinkers, in understanding the big picture, the full concept, the minutia. And there's so much institutional knowledge out there in humans that no matter how much data you may feed AI, you may get select outcomes, but you would miss out on those broad understandings. We as humans are unique in picking up on nuances. We as humans, we understand the users, our clients, we understand the unique pain points so we can improve our offerings to make them more conducive for our clients, for our users. And know that AI is not yet capable of building timely products. We as humans are. So we got to rely heavily on each other and on our human workforce to continue to make progress. Let's move on to the next concept, the ability to be able to breathe. And what do I mean by that in the context of our professional lives? It means to stay relevant. It means to challenge yourself to go beyond that, to remain visible and also resilient with the changing, shifting landscapes that we just discussed. So I have a bunch of questions for each one of you, and you can share your responses in the chat, and we'll definitely have a discussion after I conclude this talk. But what are you really doing as an individual, as a leader, and as an enterprise to empower yourself and your workforce? Are you really upskilling either yourself or your employees to stay relevant? In what capacity? To which capacity? To stay visible, how do you stand out? How are you outperforming your competition? Most importantly, to me, I keep hearing these news and I don't like it. And I want you to reflect back upon, are you moving too fast to break things next? When we hear about these big tech enterprises, they're dealing with a ton of lawsuits, not just here in the US, but in the UK, especially in the UK and other geographies. Some of them are multi-million-dollar lawsuits, some of them go up to $1 billion. But when we are thinking at our own enterprise level, are we there yet? Can we survive one of these lawsuits? Are we taking actions too fast? Are we hiring fast and then firing fast? So these are some of the things that you have to reflect back upon. Try not to move fast, but move forward with intention, not react, but respond. Are you doing your due diligence to maintain your goodwill? Because when you start integrating AI tools and technology, are you compromising the data safety or privacy of the individuals who signed up for that? I just read an article yesterday on Glassdoor. It's the company that provides employee statistics and shares employee reviews for different companies. And apparently they integrated their workflow with another enterprise, which requires a unique login. So you have to provide your username, you have to provide your real name and some real information to be able to partner up with them. And because of that partnership, Glassdoor got hold of all the real names of the people who had supplied these reviews. They got, but that was not enough. They did not look at these security settings ahead of time. The partnership resulted in revealing the names of these individuals with their reviews, which compromised their trust in Glassdoor. As a result, a bunch of people are now closing their Glassdoor account. So when you're entering into new partnerships, stay close to your goals, stay close to your mission, your core values, and reevaluate if you're doing your due diligence when you're going into new partnerships. And just know this, that human oversight is critical. So if someone at Glassdoor, someone human had flagged these events happening, they could have prevented the exodus of folks who are their dedicated members, who had trust in the platform they were using to benefit themselves as well as the others in the community. So please do not lose sight of human oversight. As we are warming up into our routine of professional journey, this is the time, in yoga, when you go deep into your poses, you start holding your pose longer. So when you are in that leadership role, when you are seeing these shifting landscapes, when you have already established yourself to be relevant, visible, and you're resilient, this is the time for you to not just endure the mundane, but explore what's exciting. So a friend of mine and also a colleague tagged me on LinkedIn to see this Harvard Business Review article. And I thought this was so timely for my talk today. I think this was 2 days ago. So essentially what folks have done, there are researchers who took publicly available data on social media platforms like Reddit and Quora, and they started looking at categories of you know, ways in which people are leveraging generative AI in their usage. So I'll just enlarge this a little bit more so you can see. They then group these themes into categories. So as you can see, a lot of people are leveraging it for technical assistance and troubleshooting, for content creation and editing. And with this friend of mine, I write a newsletter, and we do leverage AI to generate some very cool pictures. And that's been a very fun thing to do for personal and professional support, learning and education. So you name it, right? And if we dive a little bit deeper into the categories, it could be on therapy, companionship, generating ideas, which is very common. Knowledge checks, a lot of people are just using it through their Microsoft Office because it just offered. But I wanted to bring your attention to this number 6, which is people are using generative AI for fun and nonsense. And I would highly encourage each one of you to start dabbing into these tools to explore what's fun and exciting to you. And from my personal experience, I can tell you, I'm a former researcher, and I was publishing extensively, primary research articles, review articles, book chapters. And I was completely oblivious of the fact that a scholarly publishing industry existed to support these publications. It's only when I started looking at scientific writing and editing and exploring that as a career, I found out that there is a scholarly publishing industry, and I transitioned into it almost over a decade ago. Same with AI. Up until 2018, I did not know what artificial intelligence was, that it existed. But in 2019, for one of our journals, we started a new topic category on AI and computational pathobiology. And from all my training of biotech, molecular biology, oncology, I did not know what that meant. So I started going to conferences that had pharma or healthcare tracks. These were AI conferences. And I was amazed to see the amount of innovation. But what was very striking to me was the fact that folks were not talking about the ethics or regulation of AI in healthcare, which is critical. And that opened up a whole new avenue for me. I started, networking with like-minded people who called themselves AI ethicists. They were working in this domain. And as a result, I started collaborating with them, and that has resulted in, case studies, book chapters, review articles now. And as Christy mentioned earlier, some recognition from the industry for the work that I'm doing. But if you talk to me, a few years back, I wasn't going to be a yoga instructor. I wasn't going to be in scholarly publishing industry because I did not know it existed. I didn't have anything to do with AI because I didn't know what that means. So I would highly encourage you to start playing with these tools because you do not know what's exciting out there that awaits you, what could be a future opportunity for you. And as you continue to explore your edge, I have some key considerations for you. Look for what are the new opportunities, how the business models are shifting, right? We talked about real estate. I talked about real estate a while ago. How could you integrate your interests, marry them to bring something new forward, right? What are the needs of your business partners? Because your needs may not change, but those of your partners may be changing. And how would that impact you? That's something that you need to think back on. The partnerships are evolving, right? How can you benefit from that evolution? You got to think about that. Don't lose sight of how it all affects your users, your clients, because your enterprise is serving their needs. Most importantly, think about how can it empower your employees, because those people are your assets. They have the historical knowledge. They can do a lot more given that knowledge, that creativity to bring you, propel your enterprise forward. So don't lose sight of that and empower them. And most importantly, you got to reflect back at each and every step of the way to evaluate what is the impact of anything and everything that you're doing. This brings us to the last and final concept in the yoga session, or our journey as professionals of grounding. I didn't want to bring your attention to the title here. That equal to sign was not there, and I was making my slides last night, and my 7-year-old daughter was with me, and she said, grounding equals it equals what really matters. So I wanted to acknowledge her contribution here. And this is the bonus material I have for you all today. I just want to do a quick time check. Okay, we're doing good. So we've talked about the journey of enterprises. We've talked about journeys for all of you as individuals. But I want to go beyond the future of work alone. And what do I mean by that? First and foremost, I want to remind you grounding is possible. You could be a very powerful leader who is brilliant, has excellent technical knowledge, is the domain expert, does everything right, just like Mike Lazaridis did in the case of BlackBerry. But you do not want that to be the demise of your idea. There are a lot of people who are moving fast, who think they're doing the right thing, and they're dominating world markets right now because they launched these products first. They're powerful, they're rich. But as the competition begins, that power, can you see me? Sorry. Oh, perfect. Sorry about that. My screen just went blank twice today. So as leaders, you want to rely on the expertise of your people, not just your expertise, and hold yourself accountable. If you're deviating from your mission, if you're deviating from your core values, your stakeholders would know. You may be powerful now, you may be big now, you may have the money right now, but the stakeholders are noticing a shift in your perception of the mission, a shift in the perception of the core values. And as the competition surfaces, that may compromise your position. So my question to you is, when you retire, what do you see yourself being surrounded? Who do you see yourself being surrounded by? I'm an introvert person. You wouldn't find me on Facebook or TikTok or any of these social media platforms, Instagram. I'm very active on LinkedIn, somewhat active on Twitter and Blue Sky, but I really connect with people in person. I believe in authentic relationships. So something that my husband and I have been doing for the last few years is to dedicate time on the weekends to connect with our friends from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, even 30 years ago. These are the people that we want to be a part of our community when we retire. And we all have these people in our lives, but if we start integrating them back in our lives, when we retire, that might be too late. So you have to start thinking about who do you see yourself being surrounded by when your journey with work is over? And that would dictate your steps to take now. What do you see yourself doing and enjoying? So I mentioned about yoga and I integrated today's session. It was just a last minute thought. I thought, why not? And I see myself practicing yoga and perhaps even teaching it in ways. So how am I going to achieve that given the bandwidth, all that focus on being visible, relevant, looking for what's exciting? I don't have time to offer yoga on a periodic basis. So I found another solution, a quick solution. My screen's really acting up. A quick solution for that. And that's to offer corporate yoga sessions. So now I have done sessions with Dish Network virtually, with Microsoft Office in person, virtually, and still, those opportunities are hard to come by, and you have to keep exercising that muscle if you want to make it a strength of yours. So I came up with a creative way of, for now, I'm volunteering my yoga sessions at, the conferences that I go to. I have published quite a bit, but I always wanted to be a creative writer and never did it. So I paused, and that pause seemed to be turning into a long pause. And I thought it would turn into a full stop. And I didn't want that to happen. I really thought I wanted to write something and, perhaps even have a book when I, retire. I'm far from that. I will clearly admit that, but it gave me a pause to think about why don't I push myself? And I did that with the help of a friend of mine who is an industry partner from Scholarly Publishing. And last year, we launched a newsletter on augmenting scholarly publishing using AI tools and technology. So it's something that's close to my heart, speaks to me. And we are working together on this. It was bad timing because we started publishing it towards the close of holidays, but I'm so happy to share, going back to that data, that we have over 200 followers already. Going back to the very last part of this grounding, what legacy do you want to look back upon to be proud of as leaders? All my life, I haven't had mentors, and I am a woman of color who has struggled in many ways. And it was not until a few years ago when I reached out to some approachable leaders with specific questions. And the answers that I got from them were just so informative. And I feel like that changed my career trajectory. So I became a strong proponent of giving back as a mentor. And it's been 5 years, I think, that I have been mentoring in different capacities. And again, going back to the numbers, because we have all leaders here who believe in data and trends, I just started making a spreadsheet yesterday to sort of get a sense of how many people I'm mentoring. And I didn't have much time. I looked at my mentees for 24, went half year back in 23, and I had 15 mentees. So I'm thinking I probably have close to 50 mentees at this point. And it's really gratifying when you get a note from someone saying, we discussed this concept and I applied it in this situation, and this is the outcome. Thank you so much. Or if you get a note around Thanksgiving saying, I'm sitting here reflecting back on my year this time, And I'm so grateful for all the advice and help you've offered. Or, a mentee showing up at my home with pastries because they got the internship in Harvard that they wanted. And again, going back to trends and data, I'm very happy to share that NIH had requested me to be a mentor for a mid-career researcher. She has her own lab. She has her own mentees, PhD students, postdocs, and she's researching on artificial intelligence and machine learning and using that to understand mental disorders. And just yesterday, I got a really very handsome stipend from NIH. So could it be something that I'm looking forward to in my future? Absolutely. This is what I want to do long term. And this is the legacy I want to leave behind for minorities, for women of color, women especially. So just to quickly recap, we talked about 4 different concepts of being present, continue to breathe to stay relevant, visible, and resilient, all this while being human. I hope I have encouraged you enough to explore the edge, to look for new opportunities for yourself and your business enterprises. And I would highly encourage you to think about grounding yourself, to really guide your actions today, tomorrow, and into the future by reflecting back upon what really matters. I don't have a crystal ball. And if you ask me again, what is the future of work in the age of AI? I would say I don't know. But I can certainly say the future of work in the age of AI for you is what you will make it for you. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Chhavi. That was wonderful. Lots to think about. I think we have time for some questions. Udo has raised his hand. Udo, what would you like to know?
Yeah, may help if I unconnect or connect the microphone. Let me say up front, I was really pleasantly surprised to hear you're from Cary, North Carolina, because I live here as well. So you're going to put Cary on the map. Having said that, a quick comment or two before a question. I'm an electrical engineer by training. Decades ago, I used to write software programs. And what I'm really, and also for that matter, in my work life, I've been in numerous industries, everything from making bleach kraft pulps to jet engines to automobiles. My point is I'm comfortable with technology. So I believe AI will be here for a little while before it's superseded with something else. But having said that, here's the question. How would you evaluate an AI product to know it is actually not steering you the wrong direction? Because it's partly a function of persons who develop it, partly a function of the data you feed it, garbage in, garbage out. So if you were going to assess an AI product, how would you go about it?
That's a very good question, and go Cary.
Yeah.
So good to see not many people from Cary show up in my talk. So it's good to have, a neighbor here. So you're absolutely right. And I would say there is no one way of doing it. One thing that you made very clear and we all agree upon is garbage in, garbage out. So it's it's fundamental, we review the data sets that we are training our AI models on. So before we can deploy something at a larger scale, it's essential to see if it's going to work for our users, right? A couple of years ago, I was invited to give a talk at Genentech. And I did my research before giving the talk, and some neuro drugs were coming out in the market at the time, right? And it severely backfired for Roche, Genentech, and Eli Lilly, because when they were doing the clinical trials, they were trying out the drugs on vastly white populations here in the US. And when you dig deep into the data sets, the majority of people suffering for neurological disorders happen to be, or the Black population is predisposed to neurological disorders. And the representation of those populations was less than 6% in these clinical trials. So of course, given all the genetic makeup, when the drugs were applied and put in the market, deployed, it didn't benefit these individuals, but instead created more side effects, right? So you have to know your users, you have to know the pain points, you have to engage different stakeholders in building these tools. Because if you tell a data scientist, this is the problem and this is the outcome you're looking for, they're gonna think unidirectionally, right? But when you have multi-stakeholders from the life cycle of the product, and you have folks who are going to get impacted by that product in the mix while you're building these tools, you can have a diverse viewpoint of what is needed, what could go awry, and you have to reflect back on that. You talked about what principles perhaps we should be looking for, and that really is very case dependent, right? When you're thinking about healthcare, for example, data privacy, data security would be paramount. In some other settings, transparency of the makeup of the AI tool may be very important to its users. We see a whole bunch of fine print, in anything, any AI tools we use, and in the interest of time, we just click accept and then, go from there. But we have to do the due diligence ahead of time. So you have to think about, from your domain, the product that you're deploying, the needs of the users, if fairness is going to be critical. So it will be very subjective based on the product, the enterprise that you're talking about, but there are different ethical frameworks that can be important in one case versus the other. I hope I answered your question broadly.
Well, it certainly gave me something to think about. So I don't want to hog the meeting, but no, I'm glad you spoke. That gave me something to think about.
Definitely. Good morning, Chris.
Morning. Thanks for taking my question. So it's more, I've been leveraging AI more of how to respond to, like, I'll write an email. How can I respond better? Can I make it sound more professional? Interestingly enough, I was talking to a friend this morning, and he was saying that people are now starting to read through the lines that it almost doesn't sound like yourself enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, shoot, because I'm putting in the email, I'm like, crap, this is a way better way to write this sentence back to, a perspective or an interview or so on, and follow up. Just what is your thought? Because I know you're publishing and so on. And so do you have any kind of thoughts around that? Like where you go too far over the edge?
So I have many thoughts about that, and that could be another discussion for another day, Chris, but it's a very good question. In the scholarly publishing industry, we are dealing with this. In fact, I co-lead a working group on an AI community of interest for one of the scholarly publishing societies. And people are discussing some of the language which is AI generated that's seeping into the publications, right? So that makes it evident that AI was used to generate that text. And of course, we are flagging that that kind of behavior. But when you talk at a personal level, and I know of people who do use AI to write the emails, and my husband hasn't done it yet, but I'm sure he will, because he doesn't enjoy writing the long emails. He loves getting to the next challenge. But to me personally, in each and every interaction I do, and I mentioned about being introverted and believing in that authentic relationship, I like to take my time to write those emails. I like to take my time to develop and nurture those relationships that I have cultivated. I like to give it some thought and think about those opportunities that I talked to you about. So I want to personalize these emails to explore what's more out there. So of course, by all means, leverage generative AI to take care of the mundane that doesn't excite you. But as I mentioned in my talk before, human oversight is critical. I would not just push it forward. I'll at least take the time to review it to make sure it resonates with you, your messaging, your authenticity before you push it forward, because you do not want to alienate either the folks you want to engage with, your clients, your users, or people in your personal circles. I hope I answered that, Chris.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm not coming across like way too like polished and like it's too perfect, right? You can tell that like, so that's what, I am writing it out first, but it's just like, oh wow, that does sound better to say it that way. That was the yeah.
That's always helpful. And I feel like a lot of people are using these, the large language models as sounding boards that we didn't have before. And it's perfectly fine because it shows you the gaps in your own understanding of how, like you mentioned, Chris, you can state something more eloquently in certain instances.
You don't want to get caught though. You know, the joke about the guy who first met a girl and he decided to use a Scottish accent. And then he started dating her and he had to speak with a Scottish accent for as long as he dated her. So, you want to be careful what you project.
Or sending messages to your, democracy in different languages when they relate to you as a person speaking that language and understanding that community. I completely understand that. I'm right with you on that.
All right, maybe one more question, Alan?
Yeah, just a comment on Chris's question and then a question for you. So this is an amazing topic, so I'm fascinated. Just on Chris, on the comment that you made, there are AI tools out there. I'm a marketer. There are AI tools out there that will allow me to mimic somebody's voice in tonality. So there's a tool called Jasper, which I use extensively. I work for a writer. And I tell the tool itself to write in the tonality, the speech pattern of this writer, and it comes up with amazing stuff. So AI is learning. So if you've got a body of work that's published out there, you can tell it to write like Oprah Winfrey speaks, or you can tell it to write like a famous movie star, or in my case, a published author, because they'll go out and it'll find context for it and then connect the thing. So it is getting to that point. And it depends on how much content you have published out there, which will mimic your own voice. My second question is really around AI's ability to imagine. So it's based on data points, and if AI can't connect to data point, it comes up with its own hypothesis. So I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on that, the AI imagination, if you will, filling in data points that it doesn't have, and how should you recognize that, and how do you cope with it, or how do you work through those processes? And I'll go on hold.
Yeah, so those are some complex questions, right? So when my daughter was in kindergarten, she started interviewing people, and we were to launch a podcast for her. But given, some of the concepts that you shared before about AI being able to talk in someone's accent, impersonate as someone else, and we all know about the deep fake videos and pictures that are dominating our lives now. We paused that. So I have very strong opinions about that. I have tons and tons of podcasts that she recorded, which I have not made public yet. I think she may have given up on me at this point. But it's about striking a balance, right? What resonates with you? What's right? When you are using, or when you're training AI on someone's voice, someone's pictures, someone, having it imitate someone, did you take the consent? So these are some very fundamental ethical questions that we have to get beyond. And then also looking at the impact, because when I hear someone talk to me in Tina's voice, I feel like that's Tina's messaging. But is it truly her messaging? Did she sign off on it? Right? So there are many things to consider there. Can you remind me of your second question? So yeah, the first one is hugely disturbing to me, but I know we are going that route and it's already publicly available.
Yeah.
Can you please Mhm.
No, and I agree. I mean, IP, you're talking about the IP issue and who
Right,
owns that
right.
IP, right? And your
Right.
in this case, it's your daughter. So I appreciate it. Well, I'll reach out to you on LinkedIn and I'd hope to have another conversation with you. This has been amazing. So thank you. I know we're at the top of the hour.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone, today. What a lot to think about. I am really scared, but excited and fascinated, and just look forward to digging into this and seeing what the future holds. So thank you so much, Dr. Chauhan, for joining us today and sharing your expertise with us. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Please connect with the doctor on all of, we'll send out an email with all of her contacts, so make sure to connect with her and continue the conversation.
Thank you so much for the
Thank you.
opportunity, and thanks to Cyrus for bringing me to this community.
Absolutely. So happy to know you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
We can.
Enjoy the weekend.
Mhm.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.